Anyway, kia ora, tātou, welcome everybody. Let's start with a tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I wa, ke tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, hawi e, hui e, tai ki. Thanks everybody. Do we have any apologies this morning? Thank you, everybody's great. Cool. Okay, sorted now. Do we need declarations of interest? Apart from the usual. Just a reminder that now that we've got out of the TARDIS, we may continue. It's really nice to welcome a couple of deputations for our public forum section this morning. First up, we've got Tessa Miller and Pip Standish, who are going to present to us on the Balanced Farm Environment Awards. So I'll welcome you up to the table. Pip and Tessa.
Thank you, Chair, and kia ora, councillors. I just thought it'd be great to introduce. So Pip and Tessa have come just to talk briefly about the Balanced Farm Environment Awards. Councillors will know that we are a sponsor of the Water Quality Environment Award. That the awards are coming up in April, and there are a number of finalists across Southland that are being promoted through now through Facebook. So without further ado, so Pip is the regional coordinator for the Southland region, and Tessa is the fabulous deputy chair of the regional committee. And Craig's obviously sitting back there, who's been involved a lot in the judging, and I sit as a trustee on the Farm Environment Awards Trust. So without further ado,
I'll just remind councillors that the presentations are approximately 5 minutes, and then we have 5 minutes for questions, but not debate. So thanks.
Oh, thank you everyone for having us here today. We're very excited. We actually had a wee chat with Fiona a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where she mentioned that talking to the councillors would be a really cool way of kind of sharing what the Balanced Farm Environment Awards are up to at the moment. I am, as Fiona said, Tessa Miller. This is Pip. So we're part of the Farm Environment Awards Committee down in Southland, and essentially all we're trying to do is get some, really showcase some of the cool stuff that farmers are doing, and especially the ones that are going above and beyond, particularly in that environmental space. In our committee down in Southland, we've actually got 14 committee members, so we're pretty strong down here.
Sorry, click on the screen.
Thank you. Sorry.
So click on the screen. Yeah, touch the screen. Yeah, and then try to click it.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that all of you know about it, but those that don't, every year farmers enter the Balanced Farm Environment Awards. So it's an annual project. The farmers who enter are entering kind of two different areas of their journey. Some are entering at the beginning of their journey, where they're really getting a bit of a feel of what they want to do for their sustainability journey and getting some really good feedback back from that. The other side is farmers who have kind of gone along on their environmental journey and they kind of want to benchmark where they're at. They want to enter for some of the awards that are up for grabs and just get some of that, showcase their story and what they're doing. There are two parts. So in the regional awards, there's up to 9 awards, and those are focused on all parts of the farm business. Obviously, part of that is around your environmental awards, but we also have awards for farm systems, business, people, efficiency, as well as financial. So it's really trying to build a whole picture of that sustainability journey. Entrants compete for the awards at the throughout the session and announced at the regional awards evening, where there's also an overall regional supreme winner announced. The regional supreme winner is then invited to compete in the George Stevenson Trophy, which is held in June, which is also called the National Award. That can be held in any place across the country. At the regional showcase as well, there is also the Catchment Group Showcase, something dear to my heart. And it's an awesome part of the awards evening. It's in the name, we showcase a catchment group, so the catchment group apply to the awards. This year we're showcasing the Greater Dipton Catchment Group, and you might have seen them around at some of your other events, and they're also part of the Beef and Lamb Awards last year. So
just about the where your funding is used. Obviously that the awards this year is on the 11th of April at the Ascot Park, as well as a Supreme Winners Field Day. So that includes everyone and anyone that wants to come. The farmer gets to showcase why they won and what they're doing well, and also they welcome feedback, and also gives farmers another chance to learn other ways of farming in the district. It's great to have Environment Southland representation on the committee, with Craig Smith being a great asset to both our committee and our judging teams. We always enjoy having our local councillors attending the awards evening and the field days, so feel free to come along, give me an email, and tickets are selling fast this year, which is an awesome achievement. We're actually we thought we had a sellout the other week when I thought I had a maximum of 200 people, so obviously we're over the 200 mark already. This is a really positive way for the council to engage with the rural community in celebrating success of our farmers. Thank you for having us, and hopefully we'll see a few of your faces at the awards on the 11th of April.
Thanks. I certainly do enjoy attending. The meal's always good. And really interesting to see some of the from a slightly different perspective to our own awards. So yeah, really valuable evening actually. Councillor Guyton, question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions, if I may. The first one is with regard to judging and your view of assessing how well farmers are going. Are you aware of, and are you taking into account the work from the regional forum did here for Environment Southland, because it's really important work?
That's a very good point. The judging is it's a very open and kind of inviting setting. So essentially we sit there, we've got, I would say, 50 questions that we ask the contestants, and it's up to them on how they want to present that. So some people will kind of cover the regional forum and they'll know a wee bit more about regional regulations and requirements, and other people will be at different areas of their journey. So yeah, it's really up to the contestants and how they do that. But in saying that as well, Environment Southland actually ran a very, very cool training session for all of the judges. So we were all kind of up with the play. So when farmers were talking about that, we could inform that conversation. Yeah.
And further to that, changes to the significant natural area issue, is that impacting on the farmers that you are working with and the way that they view their progress to the future?
That's an interesting question, but not one that I can answer. Maybe someone else.
I suspect for Councillor Guyton, the farmers that are willing to sort of step up and be part of the discussion with the awards are most likely kind of in the already progressing and well underway with their work around Indigenous vegetation, and it's around actually how do we spread that widely across in terms of the value of the vegetation and the value of protecting it, as opposed to necessarily the legal instruments that are in play. Yeah.
Thank you, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Chairman Horrell, you had a question?
Yes, well, I guess it's more actually congratulations. I've seen these awards evolve over some time. Would have first went to one environment was probably always a bit of an add-on, but over the years it's progressed to a very good award system. Your whole program has evolved over the years too. You've got the Illuminis and things now. So I think it's very complementary to what we do, and it sits alongside, well, more farmer focus. We have our own awards as well, but you look forward to seeing some of the people that will actually encourage others to go along the same track, and that's, I think, one of the real advantages. So,
Councillor McDonald.
Thanks very much. Just wondering, I don't know, so that's why I'm asking the question. Do you use past winners of categories to come back onto judging teams?
Yes, we do. We invite generally our past Supreme winner, but from 2 years ago. So kind of works on a 2-year roundabout. So we're Kevin Hall this year, who won 2022. And next year, going on from the Grant brothers, they'll be invited to jump on the judging panel to help us out.
And the reason for that is because there can often be lots of media things that happen with the regional Supreme winner, or they've got field days and things to organise. So just don't want to put too much pressure on them straight away.
Very good, thanks.
All right, thanks very much, team. I really appreciate you coming in, and
Thank you.
look forward to maybe catching you on the 11th.
Yes.
And just because we go from feast to famine, we've got 2 presentations today. Or famine to feast, actually. So really nice to welcome Kathy Peters from Coin South, who's going to talk to us about, I guess, what she does.
If I could just add for you, Chair, we've been a strategic partner with Coin since its inception. So, yeah, really conscious that Council probably hasn't heard a lot about that relationship in recent times. So I thought it'd be really lovely to have Kathy come in and give you a brief update.
Yes, it would probably be 5 or 6 years since we've had an update from Coin, because I remember Prue coming in my first term. So really good to hear Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Take your time. It's all good.
How long have I got to speak for? 5 minutes. I'll condense this.
Just what we're saying. Obviously, we get asked whether we want to go to the meetings.
No, it's just I've written myself a note. We haven't had the invite.
not in advance.
No. Yeah.
Because normally there's a scramble for yes, we want to go. Yes. Right, thanks, Kathy.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Kathy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. It's actually really nice. There's a lot of familiar faces from some of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years, so it's really good to see you all. I think the Coin has been established for, been around for, this is our 4th, going into our 5th year, and it came out of the need through the regional development strategy. So it was looking at, initially, there was a need for a startup and innovation ecosystem within the region. And so the first 3 years, there was a really strong focus on building capability, building awareness, and building that entrepreneurial ecosystem. So that was really focused around our startups, entrepreneurship, and investment. And so it's really exciting to be able to come and speak to you today and provide you with an update on how we've expanded those services. So I will skip through this quite quickly. So obviously we are a startup and innovation network, so Coin is a collaborative innovation network for the region. And I guess at our core, we're connectors. We're really strong on our partnerships, our collaborations, and really focused on growth. And the right service at the right time for the founders and the businesses that we're working with. I'll skip through some of these here, but I guess one of the key things is that Environment Southland is a really, really core pillar in our partnerships. So we've got 5 strategic partners, so they are representing community, environment, education, business, and iwi. And that's really important that we've got those pillars so that we can have a thriving ecosystem across the region, and connecting really strongly across nationally and internationally as well. So we've also got corporate partners, and these are businesses that are heavily involved and really passionate about innovation and entrepreneurship. And often it's those connections and it's the access that those businesses are able to provide that mean that businesses and founders are able to thrive. So we've got our board, so we're an incorporated society, so we're structured in a way that we're agile and we're responsive to the needs of the community and the businesses that we're working with. So I'm just going to skip here too, just an update on where we were at last year. So this is in that startup ecosystem, so we had 61 new businesses, so we run 30-minute activator sessions with people with ideas. So already in the last 6 weeks, we've had 18 new people. So this is, I've got an idea, I need next steps, I need to validate, I need support. So this pipeline is growing, and that's through, I guess that's the result of that we're having an impact as people are referring and wanting to keep coming back through. And we've developed more structured programs as well as we've learned what the needs of Southland businesses and founders are. So in that startup space, or entrepreneurial space, we've found the main sectors that we're working with, and this I don't think will be a surprise to you, is food and fibre, manufacturing and engineering, and then tech as well. So we've tailored a lot of our programs to meet those industries. We work very close, I'll skip into it here, but we've got quite a clear structured program now for businesses and founders. So that's a big part of that is around connection. So we'll do anything to avoid any duplication. So we've got really strong connection across the Chamber of Commerce, Great South, and the other startup ecosystem and government agencies as well. So then it's looking at, there's the targeted support. So that could be in the form of, we've got the activator sessions, the programs, and then there's that building of community. And so we're running these meetups. So that's often, so we'll have a food innovators meetup, and that's an opportunity for businesses to come and meet each other, because often it's actually those connections, it's the collaborations they meet and the learning from each other as well. And that's really key to that ecosystem. I will just skip through some of these, but we'll send you through an update on the details. And I guess the main part of why I want to share this with you is that you're all really well connected, and if you can connect people in with us, then we can help them and we can work. So we've been really focused on measuring the impact. So we don't claim the success of these businesses or these founders. We try to measure the impact that we have through the services that we deliver. So happy to share a bit more of that in some of our reports as well. Another part of it is getting investment ready. So we have collaborated with Startup to Queenstown Lakes and Startup Dunedin and formed Mainland Angel Investors. So this is and there'd be, if any of you would like to, if you haven't been to a pitch night already, that's they run sort of every 6 weeks, and we would love to have you along to that. So we've really worked closely with Invest South on investment preparation, and then there's the Mainland Angel as well. So lots of events, lots of fun. A lot of it is around you can't be what you can't see. Let's grow aspirations. And this is often around a need or a desire of the people that we're seeing through the door. What are they interested in? What do they want to learn more about? And so I guess one of the key parts over the last year is we were looking at, and this was part of that Just Transitions process, but looking at what is it that the region needs and what is it that Gwyn can do to provide a broader innovation service across business and across industry. So we were able to get some funding through the Business Transitions workstream. So we've recently employed 2 senior innovation leads, and they are working with established businesses and at an industry level to grow the innovation ecosystem and business growth. So I'd love, if any of you want to reach out and connect to them, that would be fantastic. They're 2 very highly skilled and experienced staff and already engaged with over 30 established businesses and really trying to test and understand where it is that we can have the most impact. But a big part of that is going to be around how we can prepare these businesses to be able to support emerging industries for the region. So we're getting really good feedback, and it's really exciting across there as well. So I'm mindful that's probably my 5 minutes. So did anyone?
Questions, councillor Morrison and then councillor Gaita.
One question is what we're seeing in Southland with such a dependence on the food and fibre sector.
Yeah.
There's many existing farmers looking to diversify on land and generate different revenue streams. So within that broader innovation kind of movement towards those business, are there rural facing or opportunities or tailored for the rural sector that would be of benefit for farmers who are looking at this?
Absolutely. So we've worked very closely with Thriving Southland as part of that when they were looking at their food and fibre projects. And we regularly work, like a lot of the people that we're working with are farmers. We would be interested at the moment, as we've been testing our services and the tools, it has been with there haven't been a lot of farmers. So we would be really keen to actually find a handful of farmers that we could actually test this with. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Guyton.
With regard your pitch evenings or pitch events or whatever you call them, do you do preparation for pitch as well? Do you provide advice to pitchers?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, we do, and at all levels as well. So we will, I guess, from that really early stage, if we can get them thinking about an investment lens in that pitch practice from the beginning, then that helps them the whole way through. So there is very targeted support, and often we will do practice pitching as well, so that businesses and founders are in the best place possible. Yeah. No, but you like, and it's oft, even for example with we work with the young enterprise kids, and we'll actually do the pitch practice. So yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Chair, I've been to one of the pitch evenings for COIN a few years ago. It was a great evening. You had fantastic business mentors. It was a bit of a Shark Tank type of environment, but just not as intense as that. But it was a pretty cool sort of thing for these people to come along with all their ideas, and you can see investment at the front end to develop those ideas as something quite special. Is there any opportunity with Thriving Southland and thinking with Phil and touching on the rural economy to have an evening specifically facing the rural economy and the question that Phil's talking about that diversification and bringing some agricultural business people in there for some sort of mentorship or something along those lines that we could do, or would you just run it alongside everyone else? Or?
Oh, no, we could have a chat and see what would work. That would be awesome.
People are searching out in farming now. They're searching for different ideas.
Yeah.
This is something to think about.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot. We're seeing a lot of that as well. So,
great work.
Who do I talk to about that?
Question. We'll follow that up. I'll get back to you, Kathy. Don't call us, we'll call you. No, I'll get back to you. That'd be great. One more question from Councillor Cox. Thanks.
Popcorn sessions, I'm just intrigued by that. Could you tell us a wee bit about that?
Yes, yeah. So this is that really early stage. I have an idea. I'm going to test it, and they're fun. So there is popcorn. If that is what you were.
Very important. Very important.
No, but we do actually have popcorn because it's fun, and so we'll often anyone can pitch. So there might be someone that like they've just thought of an idea, want to test it out, see if it's any interest. So they get 3 slides, 1 ask, and so there'll also be businesses or founders that have gone through some of our startup courses. So this might be the first time that they've actually pitched or told anyone about it outside of their friends and family and us probably. And then we also, because it is around building capability, there's a lot of education and learning around the work that we're doing. So we also have like a spinner. And so you get 2 spins and you get 2 words and then you make up a pitch on the spot. So it is actually, it's really fun, and we're trying to create an environment where people feel comfortable and they're actually, they're able to try things and learn. Yeah.
Thank you, sounds intriguing.
Does.
Be fun.
And it's no surprise that Neville that you asked the popcorn question given your previous.
I don't care if I never see popcorn again, to be honest. Thanks, councillors, and thanks, Kathy, very much. The councillors' questions indicate that we're very interested, actually. So I'll follow that conversation up. Right. And we'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your time. Right, councillors, to the less inspiring, maybe more inspiring, just as inspiring. The minutes from the previous meeting. Of the 21st of February. Thank you, Councillor Roy. Seconded. Councillor McPhail. Any changes or alterations? Great. Then all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. I've had no notification of extraordinary items, apart from noting that Michaela's just handed round some of the councillor reports that we'll speak to in item 8. 2 seconds to cast your eyes over those before we get to them, that'd be great. And no questions have come to me as far as I know. So we are on to item 8, which is Chairman and Councillors' reports. And I'll give you a minute to maybe look at those. There should be one from... Yes, I know, but just making sure that you've got them tabled in front of you. Councillor McDonald, do you have another report?
No, just questions around those reports.
Oh, okay. Well, perhaps I'll ask Councillor Rodway to speak to his first. Councillor in the assembly.
Right.
Thanks.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you. Just a quick overview. Thanks.
Oh, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, given the fact that I'm not there in person, I thought that I might put this one off. I haven't got the permission of the owners of the property to make this public at this stage. I've tried to contact them, but not so far. So I'll put them off. I'll put the formal part of this off until another meeting when I can confirm with them that it's okay to present it to you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Evans, you're next.
Thank you. No, I sent out a report regarding attending the Local Government New Zealand Zone 5 and 6 meeting in Christchurch. It's all covered off there. There's quite a bit of information. I attended with Chairman Hurrell. He was starting on the first day. It was really good to get some direction from government on some things. It was really good. Some of the speakers were informative regarding how other councils and cities are dealing with things at the moment. We had a really good offer from Justin Tipper from Otahu regarding we've done well. And also the best part of the meeting sort of happened near the end, which is normally when that's the most boring part of the meeting. And it was all about the New Zealand Initiative for Localism, where I believe central government may want to try and hit. So it was a really good event, and recommend it for any of the councillors to go to.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I always find them quite invigorating in a number of ways. Questions? Annie, thank you.
Oh, you had a great report. Thank you for that. I'm interested when Minister Bishop was talking about aquaculture and innovation, hydro, etc. Did they get into it or any discussion on their foundational thinking on extending marine farm licenses willy-nilly, even though some of them have not been very well behaved?
I I would suggest that they didn't get into any of the foundational part of that at all. I know that we have, our organisation has sent a letter to the Minister regarding our opinion, and I think who been involved in that. It was quite a quick overview of a few things, and there was no foundational reasoning behind it other than I believe it was an election promise.
Yeah. Thank you.
Chairman Horrell.
Yes, thanks for that report, Paul. I'll do a more fulsome report once the slides come, because some of the slides I think will be quite good to share, but just a few of the highlights I took away from that. I mean, the new president, Sam Gordon's doing a great job. He's got energy and enthusiasm, and he's going to be very good for the sector. We had him down here recently. They're going right around the country, talking to each council, which we haven't seen in a long time. We had the two basic main ministers were Chris Bishop and talked about the way forward for the 3 tranches. The first was really the removal. The second one will be a tidy up before the end of the year, and the reform will probably take the whole term. We're hearing, so we'll watch that with interest. There might have been Simeon Brown who said that a lot of people have got very enthusiastic about rushing in for city and regional deals. And he made the comment that they're probably 6 months away from actually putting a framework and protocols together. So the message I took away from that is there's no need to rush. The protocols aren't in place. He also spoke on transport. They're talking roads of significance, toll roads, and that all vehicles are going to end up paying road user charges, and that'll rather than petrol tax, which I actually think is probably not a bad idea. And very much a user pays sort of focus. If you do more miles, if you're doing more damage to the road, you're going to pay more, which is probably not a bad philosophy. And I think they're going to look pretty hard at trying to find new money to actually be able to speed up some of the work on the roads. And Brad Olsen said he's going to give us the same slides he gave us last time. He said no, we've been updated a bit. He is predicting inflation is coming down quite quickly. He thinks the drop in interest rates probably won't be till the end of the year with the RSC starting to move, but we'll watch that space. But even with their own deliberations, it looks like inflation is coming back and interest rates are going to come back a bit quicker than we were probably thinking 6 months ago. I think that's probably about all for now, but once we get the slides, probably for the next ordinary meeting, I'll do a little bit written, but well done, Paul, on his first conference. He's been very quick out of the blocks, and that's a good report.
Yes, thanks, Beth. I've got Councillor Dyson and then Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. I just quickly to Nicol, did Simeon Brown say anything about the inequity that's being created around road user charges for electric vehicles? Was that mentioned at all?
I think all vehicles are going to pay user charges. So there's been debate around some people wanting to cut off their plug for hybrids, but it'll probably take some time. But I think the philosophy is that all vehicles using the road should pay. Yeah.
Right. But overdone it with the electric vehicles. Could I just also comment Anne's question about the missive that we received and we replied to with a letter? Has that letter been sent out to councillors? It may have been. Okay, I haven't seen it somewhere.
It was in our Objective Connect, if I remember rightly. I went through that.
Thank you.
It was very, very well done too.
Yes, it's it's there. It's appendix 2 in your papers, Councillor. Councillor McDonald, question?
Yeah, really good report, Paul. Got a few questions specifically on the New Zealand initiative. Yes, everyone knows that they're a conservative think tank, and it's quite interesting to pick up on some of those concepts get in before other councils do. So Oliver's advocating for a competitive model, so that's a winners and losers situation. To me, that's what that reads. So I'm just going to go quick fire through some. And I really struggle with talking about warning against loading up costs against rates, but then saying no amalgamation of councils. So no, and then taking money from Wellington saying that there is no money to take. So some of those messages are quite conflicting when I read that saying, send it to, basically what I said, don't load up the ratepayers, but stay the way you are. Don't change the model. Where is there solutions? Did he talk about any enduring solutions at all?
Where I've sort of written it, it could be taken that way, but sitting there at the meeting, it was basically working on the Switzerland model where it was cantons or local councils, and around works within those areas, the local or regional councils or cantons got a proportion of the GST or all of the tax that was paid during the project so that they can put that back into the community, so that when it comes to consenting and other issues with regarding to land use and all, that money goes back into the region that it comes from. So that's where the whole money, take money from Wellington and put it back into the regions. We are currently talking about amalgamating a lot of councils and things. Their advice was don't do that. So don't centralise as much. Leave it the way it is. Don't talk about the Switzerland model where there's 1,620, I think, cantons, which work. And what that does was the cantons were very promoting their region. So you might have 20 kilometres between cantons or regions, and house prices are totally different based on which each canton is getting the money from central government for projects that are going through it, and it's protecting the payment of rates or their rate to local government. So you may have some that the house price might be less and your rates are less because they're more proactive than the other region. It's right next door at 20 k's away. So it's a really good model. The central government that we have now currently, I believe, did visits around 4 or 5 years ago, and have had talks with the New Zealand Initiative regarding it, and are changing their way of thinking more positively towards that sort of ideal. Currently, New Zealand and Ireland are the worst countries for 90% of all tax goes to central government. So the idea of changing that mix would seem quite intuitive if we want to make sure that we don't want to load ratepayers with costs locally. It was very good, and I would suggest it.
The Swiss also have a really interesting consultation model. Did they talk about that?
No.
They consult, like, if not weekly, then fortnightly or on a regular basis on different issues, which raises some other issues actually, but interesting. Sorry, Chairman Horrell, you've got a question?
Excellent answer to that question.
It was a good meeting.
Yeah, just following on, the Swiss model is quite different from ours, where they get a big chunk. You encourage, if people move into your area, a lot of their taxes come with it. I suspect that's not going to happen to the same extent here, but the city and regional deal type thing will be looking possibly a little bit of that region saying, these are our priorities, and we've got beyond 25 already sitting there, so that, but it is probably the most involved local government system of any, and yes, we're right at the other end where the amount of funding that local government get is minuscule, and everybody knows that somehow that has got to improve.
Thanks, Stephen, and councillors for your reports. Did anybody else have a verbal report that they wish to share? Somebody like to move we receive those council reports. Thanks, Councillor Cook. Seconded, Councillor Morrison. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. Item 9 on the agenda is the various staff reports, starting with 9.1, the climate change and community resilience update. Welcome Dave to the table. The bulk of the agenda today,
Important.
some pages plus lots of graphs, which is always good. Thanks, Dave.
Through you, Chair. I guess initially just want to take the report as and focus on some key points. One of which is the large amount of pages, which is the survey report. So in terms of a quick update on the climate change working group, as you've been kept up to date with, and which also informs a significant piece of this afternoon's conversation around the long-term plan consultation document. Climate change is recognised as a significant issue in which the council has got a part to play in terms of how to respond. The working group, I guess the key element of where that's at currently is that the proposed regional climate change strategy is part of the other feedbacks to offer the opportunity for other feedback to come through from as part of the consultation document for the long-term plan. As Councillor Morrison and Councillor Rodway have been involved throughout the process with the working group to I guess is to bring that cross-council collaborative effort to getting that strategy to a place that it can be consulted on, and I think that's been expressed around the council table in the past about how useful a process that has been. Following that, I guess the next stage is, well, what does this mean? It's the so what into the creation of the action phases and the responses to the strategy, and what does it look like in practice. And the great thing about that is, again, that's a really collaborative process that's going to be worked through. Of note, a conversation that was held around the working group table, I'm not sure if Councillor Morrison wanted to provide any more insight into this, was that there was an indication of interest of exploring a joint committee around more to create a more formal sort of process or group in terms of being able to drive the work around climate change and the strategy.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. There was on the 1st of March, we had an opportunity to update the Mayoral Forum on the work of the climate change working group. We tested the proposal with the Mayoral Forum as to whether a joint committee might be a useful structure to consider moving forward for the regional climate change working group. And the feedback from the Mayoral Forum is they would be quite keen to see a paper which outlines the options, the pros and cons of that and or other models or modes of working. So that's something that the regional climate change working group will be working to develop over the next month or so, or two possibly, depending on when the next opportunity is to take that paper to the Mayoral Forum in the first instance, before perhaps then bringing it to each respective council to consider once the Mayoral Forum has cast their eye over it. Makes sense. We know that resourcing is a question. We know that taking an informal approach recently with the Regional Climate Change Working Group has kind of worked to our advantage in allowing us to explore and build confidence and relationships with the participants. But we also acknowledge that potentially there could be alternate ways of working moving forward that could also serve our interests and the interests of responding effectively to climate change in the region.
Perhaps some questions coming, but we'll let Dave finish. Have you finished? You've got some more to say?
On the strategy and the working group, that's kind of the update. So we can continue, or we can ask questions about that.
Councillors, are your questions specific to that working group? Yeah. Yeah, so Dave, if you don't mind, we'll cover them off first and then come back to you. So I've got Councillor Guyton, Councillor McDonald and Councillor Rodway.
Thank you. I had two questions. Oh yeah, the first one was there anything unexpected that we should be alerted to that came up as a result of the petition, the questionnaire and so on to the public, aside from reading it through? Was there anything in your view that was like, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that? And my second question is, what will the relationship be between the upcoming expected March for climate, which looks like it's going to be significant? Will we comment on that? Will we have a position, or will we have an answer ready if we are asked, given that we've assumed the position of leading in Southland? So 2 questions.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Councillor Guyton, and through you, Chair. In regard to the first question, I take it's in regard to the survey report.
Yes, that's right.
So are we able to kind of?
Yeah, we might come back to that if we could just stick with the working group topic.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I'm unaware, I'm not sure if Councillor Morrison has any other insight into this. I have not been privy to any conversations around March for climate event that's coming up, but happy to go away and explore, see if there's any conversations.
And maybe we've got a next regional climate change working group that is scheduled for tomorrow morning, so it's possibly something that we can consider with that group and draft what our response would be on that.
Could I request that you do? I mean, obviously, well, so.
Councillor Zero, all right with that? I think I would endorse that myself. Anybody got an objection to the working group drafting a statement? Great.
What's the statement going to be?
The working group will put out something about the March for Climate that fits with the work that they're doing, I would assume.
Yeah, my preference would be if it was framed as a request for us to consider that, because we've got a pretty full agenda for tomorrow. Sure. Be able to squeeze it in, if not attend to it offline rather than that.
And if possible, because it's coming up shortly, I'm interested to know what happened at the meeting, what will happen, what happened. Yeah, thank you.
It's just a request. Yeah, it's not a directive. It's a request, and it would need to be obviously in line with our strategies, etc. Thanks. I have Councillor McDonald. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Just a comment on the working group. We've seen the issues, the ongoing issues that we've had out at Blue Cliffs, and very high profile work that's been done on there. It seems to be in the media every day, and we sort of understand that. Is there a case to put towards the newly formed regional working group to one of the projects could be, and things come across your desk that you're not prepared for, but couldn't it be an issue or something to tackle that this regional group starts to undergo a project to identify these vulnerable areas? Because we can't keep just responding the same way that we've always responded to the same concerns. There must be a point that we need to know where these vulnerable areas are on our coastline, in our rivers, and anywhere else around the region. So I'm just putting it out there that this could be a perfect opportunity to kick the group off, the collaborative group off, in a real positive and high profile way. I wonder who else is going to do that work if not the regional climate change working group. So yeah, that's my question. One for Dave and for Phil too, to make a comment on if you both could.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McDonald, through you, Chair. I guess absolutely, it's kind of comes under that the remit of the working group to be considering that adaptation space. It's a very core element of adaptation and the emissions side of things. So they both absolutely have to happen concurrently. I don't want to speak on behalf of the whole organisation, but I guess there's a broader remit, I guess, in terms of actually how we respond collectively to that space, and I guess it's something to take to the group, and identification in the first instance is a really important aspect. Also, just thinking around the fit with the spatial planning work that needs to be completed in terms of having all the data and the modelling, and I guess that also ties to the work that is suggested has been proposed within the long-term plan and included in the consultation document around being able to have all the information and data to be able to really go into the detail of the areas that may be more affected than others.
Yeah, I'd just say too, when you're talking about it, it's a very sensitive topic. Absolutely it is. And commercial sensitivities around people and property, isn't it? But it's a discussion that can't be avoided.
Absolutely. And it's a national level thing too, that it's not only us that are facing this, there's numerous communities around the country with it. So yeah, we can learn from others as well.
Councillor Morrison, do you want to?
Just to add to that, thank you. One of the core concepts that's emerged for the working group is to understand that there will remain issues, projects, initiatives that are best managed by a single territorial authority or council, and that it won't always be appropriate or won't be necessary to collaborate across all of the partner agencies or a subset of them. And a key outcome is simply making sure there is shared visibility of everything that is occurring or is in a single entity space, and where there's a need for synergy or collaboration that will support that. That adaptation challenge around whether it's managed retreat or different ways of adapting, it may yet remain with a single entity to manage, SDC or ICC, in terms of coastal inundation in different areas, for example. But certainly it's on our radar, but we're probably taking a longer perspective in our thinking. There will continue to be short-term, immediate challenges that need to be managed within that framework as well.
Very good, thank you.
Councillor Rodway, your turn, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really to confirm that, you know, this whole process has been really good, and I think there's the fact that we're all working together is really useful. There will be some bumps along the way, and there will be issues like the Blue Cliffs or Papatoetoe thing that have come up. But to comment on Peter's thoughts about that and the picture on the front of the survey of a braided river, doesn't look like it's a braided river in Southland. It might have been better to have a picture of the Blue Cliff situation there, but that was a little bit late, but might remind people how serious it is. And the comment in the report about climate change affecting us all is very good, and I support that totally. So I'd like to thank Phil. Sorry, I've got some workers here today as well as my cold, that's why I can't be there. Compliment Phil and Dave and Anka on the work that's been done so far. It's all very promising. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Chairman Horrell.
Yes, Madam Chair, just on this issue, I think shortly we'll be able to circulate the regional sector's submission on the climate adaptation bill, which unfortunately is not in place yet, and it makes some very good points about without some national action, it has the potential to bankrupt small councils. Also, we will be releasing at the Blue Cliffs meeting tonight a consultant's report on options, and it's pretty glaringly obvious that managed retreat is the most cost-effective option. This is a small community, and that will be probably a difficult pill to swallow, but I think the councils need to be honest and straight with the options.
Thanks, Chairman. Question from me, Councillor Morrison particularly, but also Dave. You mentioned support for the ongoing work of whatever the next iteration is. Has there been any costings, budget lines around what that might cost for either individual councils or even?
No, and within the work that we're doing and setting aside that individual councils have continued to invest in building their knowledge of things occurring within their own patch to different and varying degrees, depending on which council and their challenges. our work, it's still quite early as we now step into the phase 2 part of our work, which is developing the framework for action. And so if you think about that, that's an opportunity to explore and prototype what our responses might be, and then to bring those back to test them with councils, with community, with focus groups. And part of that will be starting to bring in some additional specialist advice as opportunity suggests we need that specialist advice to inform our thinking. So, for example, tomorrow's working group will extend, and we'll bring in Great South and on this particular one tomorrow, looking at communication and engagement as the first sort of deep dive into what part of our framework of action that communication engagement might command of us. So not too early for us to start suggesting.
Given that we are, everybody actually is deep into LTP consultation, or we're about to be, and looking at budgets, some ongoing costs and the impact for us.
And perhaps the only thing I would add as part of reassurance is that we continue to believe strongly that collaboration in the long run will keep costs lower than if we were to try and do this individually. Yeah.
Councillor Guyton, do you have a quick question?
Very quick comment. This morning on the radio on the way, and I heard a piece by Iwi in Te Maui about managed retreat, which I thought was very interesting. They were saying that they're not comfortable with the idea of managed retreat in terms of marae under threat by various things because of the long-standing involvement. And Stuart and Anne will be might be able to comment on that, but I just think it's something we need to bear in mind, that one size doesn't fit all.
In saying that, I'll have to say Ora Ka for them is looking at managed retreat of their marae facility at this moment. They'll have Tangaroa come and visit up to the front door and we said, see you later. So, I mean, there's just not choices, and I guess just while I speak, I'm a little bit concerned because this is not just a nice to do, and we'll get around to it when we get around to it. There was a time not so long ago when the whole globe was talking, we're in bloody emergency here, we got to get going and do something about it. But once again, I'm hearing it's, well, we'll get to it when we get to it, but there's other more important things. I'm not sure if there is other more important things to be doing. Anyway, kia ora.
Very pragmatic.
Right, that finishes off the working group conversation, Dave, so we can come back to the rest of your report.
Through you, Chair, I also guess should have mentioned at the start that I'm just sitting here on the stand in for Anka today, so I guess it's just that acknowledgement about the amount of work that she drives in this space and really is the kind of driving force internally. Organisational emissions reduction, and I guess that lines into the council's aspiration around or goal around 2050. Probably a good element to also bring in around budgets and costings, and I guess this lies alongside or in alignment with the business planning work that has been undertaken and exploring, well, how does all of this work fit within all of our work really, and it's definitely of significance at the executive level. From I'm not sure Rach wants to comment on that, but in terms of its being signalled as a key area of focus for the organisation and the need to explore it further. And I guess the element or the piece around the emissions reduction approach talks really a need for us internally to be doing a lot of work collectively and collaboratively to work out, well, what are our options, and working out with that range of options, what can we do now, what can we do in the future, and but there is a real need for us to be bringing everyone on the journey together in that space.
A quick question from me is, when is the next climate change subcommittee meeting? We've postponed the most recent one.
Through you, Chair, Jan and I had discussed a couple of dates. One I have in my head was the 27th of April, and just confirming how much other stuff was on the do for that day to make sure it works properly. But it's the provisional date.
Great, would be my preference if it wasn't kicked down the road any further. If we can help it, thank you. Anything else, Dave?
Not on that.
No. You go, man.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair. Coming to the perception survey, climate change perception survey report, that was one that all councillors were invited to be part of, and then it got released out into the rest of the community. And I guess this is another information source and piece of work for us to be taking into account, and it's really useful to have community perspectives in this space to guide us and direct the thinking, and then furthermore the decision making around how we move forward in this space alongside and numerous other pieces of information. Really, I guess the key thing is to touch on, I guess there's the key findings element, and yeah, we're not going to go through the whole report, but I guess it's
you're quite safe. We are not.
I guess it's of note that we know that this is on the agenda for our community. There are, I guess, it's the report states only 62% respondents, but again, when you're kind of thinking about percentage of community, that's a significant amount. So it is very much up there, and that's alongside asking, well, what other priorities do you have, of which you can see that the quality of the rivers and lakes is something that we have known for a while is of importance, but I don't think there's anything that takes away from the fact that this is a concern for our community. Probably, I guess, in terms of response to your question, Councillor Guyton, it's really hard to, I don't think I personally had any reflections on what to expect or not expect, given that this is the first time that we've completed a survey like this. I guess of note is the fact that even though, and it goes alongside the emergency planning element as well, that there's what's the preparedness level of people, and it's relatively low when you're looking at a third, when we know that this is happening, and it's definitely something that we do need to prepare for. I guess in saying that, the element is what's on us to be able to support people to understand what does prepared mean, and what are the outcomes that we need to do to support them to do that alongside our colleagues in other councils and then through other agencies. Probably a really key one to take note of is the 54% of respondents who are of the opinion that Environment Southland and Council, so it's not just us, should intensify the efforts in addressing climate change related issues. Again, as has previously been talked about, also the adaptation space, so that needs to be, I guess, from community's perspective, prioritised. And of note is that how do we address things before they escalate in cost? And it has been made, the comment's been made today that that's by far the most cost-effective way to be approaching things. And I think that there's generally there's optimism that this can, elements can be addressed by the community.
Councillor Morrison.
If I could just add, in responding to your question, Robert, a couple jumped out to me, and that was that there is not across our region, there is different perspectives, and there are pockets of our region where the pattern is different. And for example, in Bluff, Invercargill, Manapori and Te Anau, there's a sense that climate change is a bigger issue, for example, than cost of living and access to healthcare. So there are differences across our region. Another one that I think is quite pertinent and I'd like to draw attention to was that there was two questions. I don't believe in climate change was 13% of the respondents responded with that, and 13% responded to I don't believe actions I take would help. What that suggests to me is that possibly in this region we are looking at a pattern where we've got about 13% of our population, as indicated by this survey, don't believe in climate change, or don't believe it will make any impact if they try and change anything.
30.
13.3, and compared to the national average, that appears to be about 23 at a national level. So that suggests to me that we're tracking better on that front in Southland. And I think maybe we should take a little bit of heart from that stat. We do probably need to test it, but I think understanding that suggesting 87% of our communities buy into climate change as a pressing issue suggests to us that maybe we can make some headway on this issue without having to, because we know that the mechanisms of mis and disinformation are well resourced and well reorganised, well organised, trying to counter climate change action.
Very good. Thank you.
Right, I've got quite a list, so bear with please. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, I think number 5 in community information, I think that's really valuable. That could cut right across the entire council, that information be collected, so people telling you exactly the channels that they wish to receive information from. I thought was really good. And I was just trying to find something that I lost at there, and that was, as I remember, people's response and how they're responding to climate change. And this is totally understandable and it's not critical at all, but some of the top 3 responses were probably the most low risk responses, like recycling and things like that. When you get down to the tougher stuff, that's right at the bottom. So that's understandable, but hopefully in time that might shift around a wee bit. So that was just a comment on that. But the communication avenues, I think, is quite valuable to pick up on that if we could do that.
Councillor Pemberton.
Yes, just something that stuck out to me, and it just makes me wonder how, if so, the question around the risk of climate change to communities, and what I noticed was the towns that are probably at most risk, that have probably had a little bit of work done around maintenance, seem to have a lot of confidence in that maintenance, possibly thinking there's more capital works to protect them. So I'm just wondering if we've been clear to those communities, especially Gore was quite a concern. Vulnerability, I suppose.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Pemberton, through you, Chair. Yeah, I guess I can't comment specifically on that. We have to do some more exploring, and I guess just from a behaviour perspective. And I guess again it lines up with the key messaging coming through for this afternoon around, we do need to explore the various options, and that we can't keep building stock things higher. It's just not feasible to go up against Mother Nature in that way. I think you make a good point in terms of making sure that we are really explicit about that when we are engaging with our communities and exploring and testing that, to make sure that isn't the assumption.
To add, the timing of the survey was in September, October last year, so we just need to understand what stage the regional projects were.
What date in September, because they're pretty fresh around then.
Yeah, just about the 13% of disbelief or non-believers. Some of those people who I've been coming across are active non-believers, not just passively sitting back saying, I don't believe. They're saying it's not true. We don't need to do all these things, and they're trying to spread that word somewhat. So I think we need to be ready to counter that.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you for the results, and it was a very good report. Survey results were really good. While reading it, I sort of noted the results are really good at this time. The time where things are good. Mother Nature's behaving, okay? And how results could be so much different if we asked all those same questions to people that lived in the Esk Valley. When Mother Nature turns and we have a lack of food in our region and a lack of availability to roading and everything else, would be a very good time to do a cut down survey of something similar to this and get a real on the face result. Because at the moment it's great. It's brilliant. When times are good. When times aren't good and climate change is on someone's doorstep, the 13% won't grow, it's hopefully won't grow. But yeah, very good report. Thank you very much.
Councillor Guyton and then Councillor Rodway after Councillor Guyton, thanks.
Just a quick thought, discussion around reaching the community, perhaps conveying to them what our role is, what our position is. A good opportunity, I think, and I'm thinking about the Climate March, is that they often stop somewhere and have various speakers address them. That audience would be a good one to have on side with us with regard supporting our work rather than dismissing us as being too late to the party or whatever. So, yeah, just a thought that you might put to your committee.
That's right. Councillor Rodway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I forwarded a study that has been done and published in the Nature magazine of 130,000 individuals interviewed across 125 countries, asking the same sort of questions as this survey did, and really interestingly found very similar results. 69% of the global population express a willingness to contribute 1% of their personal income, 86% endorse pro-climate social norms, and 89% demand intensified political action. So I think across the world, actually, there is strong support for increased action from government, such as us. And also, I think this is an important message to our farming community and exporters that we do need to be seen to be doing and actually achieving results in this area if we are to continue to be credible in the world where we want to sell our produce. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. And just a quick word from me. I was encouraged that there are a good number of people who are willing to make small changes in their lives that actually accumulate into a large impact. So that was encouraging. And also that there are lots of takeouts from this survey for other parts of our organisation, and I'm hoping that all the departments, for want of a better word, are going to see these results and see how they could work with them in their own way. That's it.
And perhaps just a couple of closing comments is that it would be an opportunity for the Climate Change Subcommittee to dive into this and look at what does it mean for us as an organisation, as a council. So I think that's an opportunity that remains. And just in response to your point, Paul, that there is an intention to do, having established a baseline, is to now do routine, regular follow-up surveys at probably no closer than 24 months interval. We can't control what may happen in the region, timing-wise, in terms of when adverse events may hit us and to what degree that influences thinking. But certainly measuring against that baseline at frequent intervals over time to see how people's thoughts and perceptions are changing.
Yes, Councillor. The other thing I forgot to say was that there's obviously a real appetite for more information and more contact. So our thoughts about some kind of hub, I wanted a better word, seem to be reinforced. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that manifests itself. Any other questions? Dave, are you finished as far as presenting? Any other questions from councillors? Oh.
I should just flag, there is a draft media release on the perception survey waiting to go. And because this has not yet been made public, but I think if
does now. Yeah, great. Thank you very much, team. It's been a long time in the making, and I know it became bigger than Ben Hur for a while there. So really appreciate Anka's work and Dave's work.
Move, we received a report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded.
Councillor Gibson down to Balfour with the.
Councillor Evans seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. Carried. Thank you. Awesome. Right, 9.2. Water and Land Portfolio Update from Liz. Welcome, Liz.
Good wash your hands.
Mine had typo at the start, that my job is changed for this report, but not for the other one. I am actually the regional planning manager, not the policy. Otherwise, so this report is really just an update on the three main policy pieces of work in the water and land portfolio. There's not a lot of update in this report. Appeals are just carrying on. There has been one extension of time for the water quantity tranche. But otherwise, we're still waiting on High Court processes and environmental process for some matters. We are hoping to have the majority of the court's decisions to council to be made operative in the very near future. The water and so as part of that, there's discussion around farm plan implementation, of course, still work going on in that space. Plan change to Tuatahi. The team have taken feedback from our workshops earlier over this year and are proactively working on the scope of what that piece of work may look like should we forge ahead with some form of freshwater plan change that's not necessarily driven by the NPCP. How that works alongside their non-regulatory options in this space is being worked on and hopefully will be ready to share with full council in April as well. That's pretty much the summary of the report. If you've got any questions.
Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, I just want to say to the wider council, the comment in here, governance have indicated a desire to notify a reframed plan change within 12 months. I'm unsure of that, whether I might have been away that day, but I don't think we've made a determination on that at all. And I'd just like the view of other members of the governance here, whether that is the case. We're talking not about the plan, but the plan change itself. So, sorry, Liz, but it's not directed at you, it's directed to my colleagues. What's your view on that? We were meant to have a discussion on this later today. Was that right, Nicole? It's been cancelled on these matters?
The conversation
that was something different, Councillor.
The conversation later this day was to be focused on the process of making the plan provisions operative, as opposed to the plan change notification going forward. So the statement in this report is really just based on conversations that we had in those workshops. It has not been a decision of council, more of an invitation that we are working towards.
Okay, so I just want to, is there any reaction from that question I put out?
I'll let Chairman respond to that first, I think.
Look, we're getting pretty strong indication from central government that they don't want us to do a plan change before 2027. So we need to have that discussion. We've got plenty to do in the meantime, and that may well be that we don't do that final bit, which is essentially the limit setting thing, but that's a discussion we need to have because of the limitations. You can't take something out before you replace it. The messaging, I guess, has been a wee bit of a leak at times, but there's a pretty consistent message coming through about working with your communities, working with your catchment groups, getting stuff happening on the ground, which I'm reasonably comfortable with, because that's where we're going to make the progress. When we last, the original letters, more or less, it looked like you could just carry on. We're getting quite a strong message. Don't spend money on something that's going to change. We've given a very strong indication the MPs for fresh water will change. But what Luke was saying, I guess, was indicating it doesn't. We've got a lot of work we can do that's not necessarily dealing with the endpoint of the NZFM.
Thanks, Chairman. And just before we go through the list of names, also to remind you that we all participated in several workshops that that were on that very that very subject of doing but not doing, changing what we were doing. But I have some questions, I think, from Alice, Councillor Gibson, sorry, Councillor Guyton, Councillor Pemberton, and Representative Bull. So we will go with Councillor Gibson first.
I'll just make a comment, Peter, and I must have been away with you too, at the same place on the same day, because I'm not aware of getting it done within 12 months.
Thank you. Yeah, Nicole says he's comfortable. I'm very uncomfortable at what was described as opaque or vague kind of instructions or indications coming from central government, which are going to tip over our program that we worked on for so long. And from my recollection at these workshops, we've continually assured each other that we will not bend and fold or even delay on the hint of something from central government. And I'm not comfortable at all that we find ourselves in this position of having to question that again at this last moment. My feeling is that staff, I can't speak on behalf of staff, but my feeling is they're not going to be happy with this. They've devoted an enormous amount of effort to it. And if we're just going to sideline or hold back some of it, we've always talked about our work is for Southland people. It's not for central government. And this doesn't look or smell good to me.
You want to answer Peter's question now?
Are
you here?
Sorry, Councillor, we'll just.
Oh, that's good.
I think Councillor Guyton's already answered it, actually.
Thank you, Madam
Councillor
Speaker.
Pemberton?
Yeah, what I recall from those workshops was Southland solutions, Southland problems. I guess where I'm seeing things, if our hands are tied, because we have to be real about this, and if we want to do the right thing for council, we have to be very careful we navigate this right. But we need to keep on with the messaging of where we're heading. If we can't move forward on that, we still need to be very clear so people understand their businesses and in their communities where the trajectory is going, even if it's not this round. So we just need to be clear so that people don't take their eye off the ball, and probably gives a little bit more time to we haven't seen the financial reports and all that stuff, and I think now would be a good time to revisit those and have a refresh, because we are starting to push out our timelines from when that work was done. So let's not waste the opportunity that's sitting in front of us, and let's not dwell on what we can and can't do too much.
Stuart, and then Councillor Roy.
Oh, kia ora. Councillor Guyton basically said what I was feeling. However, I understand the predicament that we're in and getting direction from central government. But we are uncomfortable. We just hope that whatever happens, that we can still focus on Haora within the generation, whichever direction we might go in. I heard it said that the appeals were still appeals to come. So I thought they'd done. So I thought we had clear direction from the courts that we were required to go in a certain direction as directed by the courts. So I was just wondering what might be happening there. The going out and engaging directly with stakeholders. I just wonder, the regional forum, I thought that was when we went out and engaged directly with stakeholders and such like. A lot of mahi and lot of action come down through the regional forum, and I just says sort of veering off course again, because we're going to start all over again and get more direction that might be veering away from what the regional forum. We're all once again patting ourselves on the back about how well that all went and how good the information flow that came back and direction that we received from the big wider community at the time. Yeah, no, we're quite concerned about where it's all going. we're just being dragged backwards again, and in the meantime, well, we're just not making much headway, are we, to address these issues that we're trying, especially the housing and well-being of those of the way.
Councillor Roy.
Oh, sorry, no, just. No, I was probably a wee bit confused. I mean, traditionally, we could set standards that were not less than an NPS or an NES.
Yeah.
And are we getting an instruction to say don't set any records, or are we waiting on some determinations of the Environment Court, which has been delaying a whole lot of things? But I don't think we should lose momentum in any way at all unless we've been instructed. I'm not sure how that would have happened, to not do anything. I think we've got a bit of momentum, and it's my sense that we just got to keep working on this stuff.
Councillor,
Just when we finish the round.
yeah, I can come back to you, but we've got people who haven't had it too yet. Councillor McHale.
I don't think, like, thing that is, we've got to choose our battles. And there's certainly, we've got our document, our local document has come out, the Southern Water and Land Plan, and that should be a focus. Whether anybody disagrees or agrees or whatever their position is, you've got to say, well, it's been through a very extensive, long process. And I don't think it generally changes. There might be tweaks in there, like some might rules and things, but the process that we've got at the moment is obviously hopefully we can bring, that's where we'll be focusing on a local document that leads our way. And if that's there, we're not, Stuart was saying, oh, we're going backwards. I don't think we're going backwards. We've actually moved forwards quite a way, and we've got to back that document. The information, I suppose, is coming that certainly some things within the government are making it a bit difficult to work out where we should be going. And I think that's where I was saying, we need to choose, pick our battles. Is it worth fighting something? When we've got a document, we can really push and make good advances, because we can really treat it as their local, dealing with their local issues. The next plan change to a is going to challenge that. We've got a new government's probably challenging why we're doing that. It's given us time. That's the battle. We want to fight over that with the community, and it could be actually doing a heap of good stuff, just getting on with it. One thing we don't necessarily need to be, if it did for some reason go into 2027, there's a huge amount of work we've done that we can put to the community through that period in regards to issues around intensification and that. And so, okay, if it didn't go this year, but we've got this information, socialise the information, get it out there so people can get their heads around what we're thinking of as of today. We know a lot of stuff, we've got all the stuff that's not going to go away in science and what we think. And
so why delay?
But I'm not saying it's not necessarily doing it through a legal, but you can actually socialise that. It's getting out there. This is what the community's talking about. Whether we need to do it at 2025 or 2027, it's working with the community, throwing it out there. So, and I personally, you've got a political coming from central government saying, shouldn't be doing this. So regional councils will have to make a call. For a chunk of the community will be going, why are you doing it? And the focus will go off what we're trying to achieve. So it's about choosing the battle. So we're not saying going backwards, but it's actually just understanding how we've got an opportunity to work with the local community, and that's one thing this government's trying to do.
Chairman Horrell, and then Councillor McDonald, I'll give you a second bite at that, Jerry, because I'm just so kind to
Jeremy said it. We're not talking about going backwards at all, and actually working on the Southland solutions. We're actually in a very fortunate position. We've had our own plan change come out of the Environment Court. One or two things yet to be ticked off. We're in a better position than a lot of other councils, like Otago perhaps, who haven't actually got the plan to that stage. So there are parts of the NPS that we probably weren't totally comfortable with anyway. So if we can continue down the track of Southland Solutions and just get things happening, I think we've got a huge amount to do. We've also got the Southland Coastal Plan, which was also of incredible importance to iwi as well as ourselves. So we're not going to be slowing down. It's just there might be a slight change of emphasis. The plan change to Otahi was only a small piece on the top of our plan, and I think sometimes we forget that. And that's going through the limit setting process. But we can still continue to have those conversations at a Southland level. But yeah, as Jeremy says, what you picked your battle. So why get into a say basically we're going to snub our nose to a small thing that's not going to matter too much, because we're still going to be carrying on down the road.
Sorry, just in regards to Peter's question, we did talk at a workshop. There were options. What do we do with plan change to Otahi? And there was indication from that workshop saying that if we do progress, there was a timeline. So we did. There wasn't a workshop. No, we did talk about the end of the year.
Councillor McDonald,
Yeah, thanks very much.
do you have a question or just a comment?
Well, I just want to put another comment if I could, just because I opened this up. I think it needs to be understood that the Southland Water and Land Plan is ready to push the button to send it, as I understand. Now, that plan is significantly stronger coming out this end than it was in the front end. So that's going to take us a long way closer to the plan change. We need to know that. So in that respect, we're not walking things backwards, we're moving things forwards. So I'm not advocating for that, but I'm advocating for the discussion, and I think this was really valuable, this round table discussion that we just had. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to tidy things up. I'll give Councillor Morrison an opportunity, and then perhaps Lucy would like to just respond. Thanks.
So I guess I do have a question, and it relates to the regulation changes that we have suggested to the ministry, and have they actually gone to the ministry, and what's the initial thoughts on that? And the reason I'm asking that question is that, and I think it's really important that we understand the relationship between a decision to either progress the plan change to Otahi or defer it, because if that regulation is accepted or enacted, that change, then that provides an opportunity for us to, if you like, double down on freshwater farm plans or farm environment management plans, and the speed at which they're introduced, where they're introduced, and what we ask of people within that is another way to maintain or build momentum in response to what the public have told us in the recent perception survey is our greatest environmental concern in Southland. And so I was just wondering, what's the state of that suggested regulatory change?
Councillor, can we just
just in regard, is that public information? I'm just saying that we're going out public. Sorry, Phil, I'm just making sure that it is what we're.
Yeah.
Can someone clarify that?
Yeah, thanks, Lucy.
I'm happy to answer that, Chair, and I'll attempt to answer the other comments and questions in a succinct way as I possibly can. So just firstly saying, and Councillor Morrison's point I'll start with, because it is a multi-pronged approach, it's the strategy that we're currently adopting. So there are regulatory changes afoot, one of which is the farm plan piece that we worked through with yourselves, and Wilma and the chairman met with ministers when they were up in Wellington a few weeks back. They were grateful for what was received. That's still being worked on, and they were keen for us to have put the thought into it. Us and the regional sector more widely are working with ministers and officials on the broader changes to the NPSFM. I'm heading up to Wellington next Friday to continue those conversations with senior officials. We've got some advice pulled together about which parts of the NPSFM we would recommend they look at, and some suggestions around how they might want to advance some of that. But it's really the beginning of a conversation with them in terms of the broader NPSFM changes that are likely to advance in this triennium for this government. So that's to your point around that kind of central conversations. The second part, in terms of our local response, so again, trying to keep it as brief as I can, Chair, in response to the questions around the proposed Southland Water and Land Plan, yes, mostly locked and loaded. We've got a couple of High Court appeals still to come and a tranche 3 matters which relate to the water quantity pieces. But everything aside from that is fully settled, and the intention there is for us to bring that to council at the end of April to ask council to make that fully operative. Aside from those outstanding matters, we'll set a date at that point for when that plan will become operative, and that's likely to be a date in May, after which point the 6 months of existing use rights clock starts to tick. So there's a lot of work that the team are currently doing in terms of comms and collateral and explaining fact sheets and questions and answers to assist the community with any of their questions that they might have in regards to that. That was what this afternoon's conversation was going to be about, but we'll move that briefing out for yourself, so we've got show and tell the collateral, so that you've got more meat to get into closer to the 17th of April council meeting. To the plan change questions and the wording in the report, and as Councillor McPhail's alluded to and a couple of others, we did talk to yourselves about your desires for moving forwards. What we haven't done yet is the next part, which is locking in what that scope looks like. What's going to be in a plan change of any kind, if you still would like us to advance one, what needs to be in our non-regulatory bucket, which parts are we going to lean onto from a farm plan perspective, how might we also use catchment planning and those other things. So the team are currently working on that, both Liz's team, Paul's teams and Rachel's teams as well, and Karen's obviously, to figure out how we can articulate that in a slightly different way. It's about keeping that momentum, making sure we're focused on outcomes, making sure we're focused on Southland solutions to the Southland problems. So we are working on that, what that looks like, that package, and we'll be coming back to you with that in really, really soon, as soon as we can. So that's what's been happening in the plan change space. The plan change itself is going to sound different, look different, feel different if we do any kind of a plan change, but we need to be focused on action now and outcomes moving forward. So noting the comments as well around national pressure and changes at that level. So hopefully it was,
and not slowing down
and not slowing down, and making sure that we are keeping that momentum, as Councillor Roy said, and using the work that's been put in place over previous years, as Stuart mentioned, from the regional forum, etc.
Thank you. Okay, a fulsome discussion. Thank you, councillors, for your tolerance and patience and honesty. Somebody like to move that we
I'll
receive it?
move.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Seconded, Councillor McPhail. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And Liz, go ahead. As the regional planning manager this time. 9.2 is the group program update. Thanks.
At the last strategy and policy meeting, there was a question around the dam safety regulations. So this report includes just a bit more detail around what that actually means and what council is doing to address that. That set of regulations that is coming to us in May. It will be when our obligations to meet those regulations start to kick off. So just to let you know that the operations team has been working on the dams that council is responsible for, and making sure that we have got an understanding of what our potential impact classifications might be. So that work's either been completed for some dams or is in the middle of being peer reviewed. So hoping to very much meet the 3-month deadline that's required after May in that space. Other thing mentioned in the report is the release of the government position statement. I keep going. GPS means lots of different things, but this one, government position statement on land transport, that was released in March. So unfortunately, it came a bit late. It came after we released the regional land transport plan, and it's across the whole country. And there's been agreement across New Zealand to be able to extend our timeframes for the consultation on our regional plan, just to enable the government position statement information to be built and people to consider that when they're making their submissions. So our submission period has now been extended to the 19th of April. We've received around 20 submissions to date, so people are showing some interest in that space. I believe that the Regional Transport Committee is in the process of making a submission on the GPS. It was out for the chairs to consider over the weekend. So that will go out. There's a lot of comment within it, supporting some bits, but other bits looking at public transport and how the GPS deals with public transport and also just to make sure that the local roads are considered as well as the nationally significant roads. From a national perspective, we talked at the last strategy and policy, I believe it was last strategy and policy, about the agriculture consent extension that was being proposed by government, and there was talk about wanting us to provide a letter in terms of feedback, and that's been attached. I think that was discussed earlier today. I think that's about it. Any questions? Thank you, Chairman Hurrell. We'll start with you.
Yeah, firstly, very good submission on the agricultural, that was well balanced. The other one I'm just a wee bit concerned about is the dams. And we've got a list of the traditional ones. Looking for some of those smaller dams. I just hope when we're trying to encourage slow flow that we're not going to put an increasing burden on people that are doing something that's going to help us.
Chairman, are you finished, Jim?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, I've forgotten, we contracted out our responsibilities for certification and approval of dams, which Mataga, I think, is to Canterbury now, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So Canterbury Regional Council?
Environment Canterbury, I believe, are in have a contract to look at our building act obligations.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the transport, and I've just been reading through the submission. It's going to be signed off today, but to the GPS, I think there is always the focus that, South Island are not getting enough. It seems to be always sort of centralised up North Island, looking after North Island, and I think it's certainly a strong indicator that money has to flow throughout the country. It's reasonably important, certainly in this area. I know we talk about gravel a lot around here, but it's the gravel on the roads is not there too. So there's actually a really quite a good discussion around group management and actually what the community needs, other infrastructure sides of things where it can work together maybe in the future. But yeah, it's all about, unfortunately, with the timing, the GPS and our process been clashed with times, and there's a few things in our submission that we can't comment because we haven't actually made a call on some of them because we haven't had a meeting and been able to get a meeting in before that. But it's generally a real focus that we're trying to make sure that some of the more funds get down this way in due course.
Thanks, Councillor. Just a couple of things from me then. I'm just wondering if on the second last paragraph on page 65, there's talk of online pathways for submissions of reports and stuff. Do we have the IT, whatever it's called, system for that existing, or is it going to have to be? Is it going to have to be kind of magicked up from somewhere?
There is a register for dams, but I will double check that. I'm not sure.
Impact on some other things. The other thing was Councillor McFarlane wanted to ask you whether there's any discussion of regional public transport in those conversations, like people from nightcaps meeting to get into it.
I think the public transport, I think, is focused on Queenstown and the submission, because that's obviously public transport, but it's congested as it is, and certainly it's focused. We were always discussing about regional transport, connections of all communities and things like that, but whether it quite gets the focus is fairly costly.
Indeed. But necessary, especially in the climate change conversation.
It is discussed locally within the Otago and South, and it does come up quite a bit. A lot of focus, mainly in the region, is actually about speed limits around bus, children's bus. That's quite a focus actually. It's a lot of focus on the safety of children.
And just a comment from me, I found it somewhat ironic that the land transport GPS acronym is the State Highway Investment Proposal, which is SHIP. It tickled my fancy a little bit, but anyway, Councillor Rodway, you have your hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair. It was about the letter regarding 25-year consents for marine aquaculture. And I'd raised this before a couple of times. In the letter, we said that an alternative might be to allow these to be controlled activities, which might make their passage through the consenting process a bit easier. I was a little bit concerned about that because with a controlled activity, the council doesn't have the right to turn it down, even if there were, if it thought it should do. I noted that under the regulations, the consent could only be granted if it complied with coastal plan conditions and stuff like that. But I thought a better option, I see Lucy's gone now, but Lucy might be able to comment. A better option.
She's still in the room, Councillor.
All right, thank you. Might have been to, suggest some alternatives such as limited notification consents, or, there were alternatives which still gave the council an opportunity to decline the consent if, if it felt it didn't comply with coastal plan provisions and its goals and objectives under any water plan. So it's not really a question, but it's a comment. But I would perhaps, if Liz or Lucy could comment on the use of other consent types that might have been more appropriate than the controlled activity type which we suggested.
No, more than happy to respond. This computer has just died, so you probably can't see me anymore. Anyway, we are in the process of reviewing the coastal plan, and just this letter does not bind the regional council here to using just a controlled activity status. I think aquaculture is definitely a conversation that has to be had around our regional response and regional desires for aquaculture, and the activity status will fall out of those conversations. So I don't think we've tied ourselves down to saying that this is our preferred approach to marine aquaculture. It is one approach that we can consider, but yeah, and we are more than welcome to have those conversations on other options around the table through that process.
Lucy.
I'd just add to Liz's excellent response in regards to our local response to the challenge of aquaculture and where we go next with it. The national response, there's likely to be longer and more time for us to influence and work with MPI on their proposal. They're likely to go to some sort of select committee. We've already had a follow-up conversation with them to say, you didn't give us much time and we managed to get some initial feedback from our council, but we would appreciate more opportunity and more time to consider it more fully about what a more nuanced approach might look like. So yes, just to Councillor Rodway's point, there is going to be more opportunity for us to discuss other options as we go forward at that, both at an MPI national level, as well as Liz has said, the parts that we own ourselves.
Thank you. Thanks very much. That's reassuring.
That's right. Somebody would like to move that report then, please? Thank you. Councillor seconded Councillor Pimpton. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. Flipping over pages that I've got lost. So 9.4 is, I hope you've noted, a response to your desire to have things not disappear off the radar and just keep you abreast of progress on any of the requests or for informational progress that you have asked for during our S&P meetings. So, Rachel, did you want to speak to that, or
probably just note, Chair, this will be a standard item going forward,
just so that we can keep track of any of your particular interests? Any comments about any of that? I wouldn't imagine there are, just to update you really. So if somebody would like to move that, we received that report. Thanks, councillor Pemberton, seconded councillor Guyton. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. That brings us to an almost on the time, spot on time conclusion with karakia. Kia whakaarea te tapu, kia tū ki whakataha ai, kia tū ki whakataha ai, kia wātia ai te ara, hauie, guie, tae kia. Have you got anything to do?
Yeah, no, it's all right. I was just,
Do you want to wait until we do
oh yeah.
live streaming? Thank you, councillor.